cannot be executed efficiently by one entity. And even at the three component levels that we just talked about, the port, the corridor, and the destination, each subcomponent is also made up of multiple stakeholders. Therefore, in order to achieve efficient port hinterland connectivity, we need to look at it as a multiple stakeholder arrangement, and therefore stakeholders must be put together, work together, plan together, and execute together. Without that together interagency collaboration, we wouldn't have the most efficient port hinterland connectivity that is expected. But infrastructure involves cost and huge investments. So the challenge has always been, how do we find the financing to develop port infrastructure, develop hinterland and corridor infrastructure? And we got to know from this conference that certainly funding options are available. And the most recommended option is the PPP, and it comes back to the partnership concept that I just talked about. And in the PPP, you require certain skills to be able to deal with it, and therefore there's a need to build capacity in project management so that every entity that wants to get involved in PPP for development of infrastructure will be able to develop very bankable projects that will attract the requisite funding. In the same vein, whilst we try to pursue the PPP, a partnership is supposed to be a win-win arrangement. If partnership projects are not negotiated on a win-win basis, they are bound to fail. And I believe in Africa, we have quite a number of examples of that nature. Once either side has the requisite skills to negotiate and the commitment to be fair in the negotiations, then we'll have successful PPP arrangements. But one thing came up, that because every planning project is a human endeavor, there's a need for PPP contracts to have review clauses so that in the process of even implementation, when situations change or some new developments come up, there is avenue for the parties to review and ensure that the win-win arrangement continues. The conference also taught us that the Port Authority, being the landlord of the port, does not need to just concentrate on the port's vicinity for infrastructure development. The Port Authority must be interested in the hinterland infrastructure and can even contribute to the development of infrastructure along the corridor. We've seen that with the Port of Antwerp, and I believe many examples outside. A few ports in Africa, of course, have had to attempt, but I guess it all comes down back to the funding options and also the arrangements you make to be able to partner with corridor management organizations to develop corridor infrastructure. So port authorities should be interested in that, either contributing directly or supporting organizations that can fund corridor infrastructure. Whilst we try to develop the corridors should not just be a conduit for goods to move from the port to destination, and a conduit for goods to move from a certain origin to the ports. There's a need to ensure corridor value chain development. What that means is that as much as possible, ports should be interested in how much productive capacity can be developed along the corridors, and that will generate business that will come back through our ports. The conference reminded us about the 4 pillars of a competitive port: maritime and landside access must be efficient and fluid. The port shouldn't just be an avenue for ships to call in and go in and out. It must be a logistics center where value-added services are developed and provided, and all that will contribute to a critical mass that the port needs in terms of cargo volumes. Political stability is critical. And of course, the markets of the port must be accessible. It just comes back to the connectivity component. The multiple stakeholder issue or character of the port is such that the Port Authority is only the landlord. Even if you are a service port, the multiple agencies you have to deal with can only be effectively coordinated and managed to be able to contribute to achieving the objectives of the port if you rally the port community under what is popularly called the Port Community Association. As port authorities, therefore, we should prioritize the setting up of the port community associations as the single platform through which you can get every stakeholder to contribute to the same vision and strategy of developing and promoting the ports. And in doing so, you are not just concentrating on agencies that operate with you within your port, but also the destination. And that is where the hinterland and the landlord countries are of paramount importance to be associated in the port community concept. In some ports where port communities have been set up, we've seen the port communities contributing even to the marketing effort of the ports. The critical importance of women in life, in trade, in ports was also highlighted by this conference about the need to empower the woman, to encourage their professional development, and encourage their leadership role within the port and maritime sector. And therefore, Port Authority should take a critical look at how women can be empowered along all the strata of professional areas within the port profession. The concept of PPP and the participation in ports came up to see whether there is the best model, especially as far as port management is concerned. Is it service port wholly operated by the government through the Port Authority? Is it a fully privatized port that is best? Or do we have a mixed model? But I think the conference thinks that generally PPP is the best. And generally Port Authority representing government should, to a large extent, not participate directly in commercial business, but should be a landlord and a regulator. Therefore, for a PPP to be successful, of course, the big business must be government regulated and facilitated, but private sector led. Regional cooperation was highlighted, having looked at interagency level at the country. Bilateral and regional cooperation is critical to the development and promotion of efficient ports and hinterland connectivity. We have a simple example in our own context where the ECOWAS protocol on axle load limitations is one example. It wasn't mentioned in the conference, I'm just raising it to buttress the importance of regional cooperation. ECOWAS protocol on axle load limitations is to protect routes, and therefore a truck should not load beyond a certain volume per journey. But unfortunately, we are not getting regional and harmonized implementation of this protocol, and therefore we are not succeeding in efficient implementation. One country implements, it loses business to the others. Trucks overload, they destroy road infrastructure. And then they keep indebting government to have to repair roads. It's just one single example of the importance of regional cooperation. Facilitation of maritime transportation using ICT, various ICT tools, including the single window and port community systems, also came up as critical, because there's the important need to eliminate as much as possible human intervention in the logistics chain. If you were just to process a document by the click of a button, compared to if a human being was going to handle that paper from A to B for it to be processed. I think commonly we understand that if you can get a computer to do that, that is much, much easier and faster than if a human being is going to do so. We had several examples where at some level before, where we were doing 100% manual operations in cargo clearance. You go to a customs desk to process your document. And then once the customs gentleman steps up to, first you have to leave your office and go to a customs bureau to queue. Secondly, if he has to break for lunch, you have to wait for him. If he has to attend to nature's call, you have to wait for him. So you did not only waste your time leaving your office and moving, you also have to be at the mercy of the human being who has to move your paper or sign your document for your cargo to be cleared. It's just a little example to show us what it means to embrace ICT and the single window projects so that we can eliminate the human beings. Then what then happens when the person tells you, you know what, I'm tired, I'm going for lunch for 3 hours, and you want to clear your cargo? You are compelled to pull him aside and say, look, I need this urgently. What can I do? I'll buy you the lunch, you process my paper for me. And that is what came up here, that how do we avoid corruption and all that. And what then happens is, if you, a particular importer, are noted for always buying the lunch, at least your papers are cleared faster than the person who will say, I'll wait for you, go for the lunch and come back. And that is what we want to avoid by embracing ICT as much as possible. And it's no longer just an option. It's an obligation. If we don't do that, we'll remain backwards. Whilst we are looking at infrastructure at the port level, facilitation along the corridor to destination and back, we need to do that sustainably through protection of our environment against pollution of all forms, against acts that lead to climate change and its negative effects. And therefore, everything we do, we have to mainstream environment and sustainability in our project's development, among others. We need to also know, this conference highlighted that there is technical assistance available from various professional and international organizations, the IMO, UNCTAD, World Bank, Trade, if I got it right, and many others, where we can seek various technical assistance to help us develop the needed capacity. Beyond the conference itself, the Africa region of the IAPH held a briefing session and to look at what are the priority areas that Africa must be looking at as a port sector. And 5 major priorities came up. The first is that maritime security has to be priority. When I say the first here, not necessarily that's just number 1, but not the most important. All the 5 listed are equally important. Maritime security, piracy, stowaways, the proliferation of illegal ports and jetties, which pose a security threat. We need to look at this as ports. We shouldn't assume maritime safety and security is a maritime administration's business. It is our business, because the ports call in ports. They don't call in maritime administrations. We need to work with the administrations. We need to support with logistics to make sure our waters and the access to and from our ports is safe. The second one was environmental sustainability. The need for us to mainstream environment, which the conference had already highlighted. We need to look at environmental protection in all its forms. Despite what was mentioned yesterday that, well, maybe because we are a developing continent, sometimes we see environment as remote. But the truth is, the reality is here with us. The older ones will tell you that the climate change, we are experiencing it in Africa today. If we think it's remote, it's not. We have a responsibility. And if you look at even marine pollution, it has a direct economic and health effect, which we need to address as ports. So let us, as ports, contribute and take the necessary measures needed for us to contribute towards preventing environmental pollution and climate change. Number 3, of course, which was also highlighted by the conference, is facilitation through the use of ICT. And we said in facilitation, it is a multiple agency responsibility. And in facilitation, as far as ports are concerned, customs is the #1 stakeholder that we have to work with. So we all have to devise all the means possible to elicit customs full cooperation so that we can together facilitate trade through our ports for the economic development of our countries. Partnership is critical. I think it runs across. Partnership between the port and its city and municipality. Partnership between agencies, the Port Authority and all agencies concerned. Partnership between countries and partnerships regionally and at the continental level. Capacity building. In all what we've talked about, if you don't have the skills required and the knowledge needed, you probably wouldn't be able to have the right measures in place and implement them efficiently. Capacity building is therefore important. And this capacity building project has a lot of interested partners that are available and willing to assist us. It is ours to identify where our needs are, and certainly we'll be able to find the right agencies and partners to help us build that capacity. Finally, the conference indicated that in whatever we do, we need to be able to set targets and measure our progress. If you cannot measure, then certainly you cannot plan, and you cannot know whether you are progressing or not. As a result, the conference proposed that we should work towards what is called the Corridor or Hinterland Connectivity Index, so that we can measure ourselves within Africa, our various corridors, to see what the connectivity indices will be, and then we can then measure our progress over the years to see whether we are improving on the index or not. Then whatever causes, strong points we have, we can enhance them, and whatever the weak points we have, we identify, we could also address them. This is what the Secretariat managed to put together. If there's anything left, I'll send us an email, we'll update it. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Mr. Michael Luguje, DG, Ghana Ports and Harbour. Can we please give him another round of applause? And with the applause that greeted, or the ovation, if you like, that greeted the end of his presentation, I'm sure that we're all in agreement that our rapporteurs did a fantastic job at capturing all of your discussions and all of the things that you have put out on the table. You've taken the charge of our president on Monday, and you have made it into solutions that would catapult African ports to the next frontier. If you agree that our rapporteurs have done a fantastic job, I think they deserve a round of applause. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are now switching gears to the closing ceremony of IAPH Africa Regional Conference to Abuja 2018. This is just a quick reminder of what happens from here to the end of today. We're going to have the closing ceremony. After the closing ceremony, we would go for lunch. After lunch, you return to the designated locations in this hotel, as I will announce before the close of this particular ceremony. Get in the buses and go on a tour around the city of Abuja. You will return from that tour at about 6 p.m. to a dinner, a treat waiting for you that will run for about an hour or so. And then on the screen behind me, Lara will play her beat as you will watch the movie Lara and the Beat. So that's all that will happen this evening. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening or the day. But before we get to that part, onwards now to the closing ceremony, as I ask you all to please be on your feet for the national anthem of Nigeria. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who may be seated. If you don't think, as I do, that that is the best national anthem in the world, I don't know which one else you think is, but I know that is. Thank you. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we will now take... Thank you, Navy Band. Thank you, Navy Band. Thank you, Navy Band. For the benefit of those who don't know what they just did, thank you. Thank you, Navy Band. They just reminded us a very popular song. I grew up hearing that song. I love my land and people, everything it did for Nigeria. Make we join hands to make Nigeria better. I know say make una play and calm down. I don't sing, I don't do. I don't sing. Thank you, Navy Band. Please give Navy Band a round of applause. Give me a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, Navy Band. Thank you. All right, so onwards now to the very first remark at this closing ceremony. I ask us to please welcome our Managing Director of the IAPH, who has also represented the President of the IAPH at this conference. Welcome, Dr. Patrick Verhoeven, as he talks to us one more time at this conference.
Thank you, Richmond, and I promise this is the last time that you'll hear from me. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the decision that we took in IAPH to go regional was a very good one. This is, as I mentioned a couple of times already, our first regional conference in our new constitution, held on African soil, and I think we can say it was all we expected and much more than that. And I would like to commend the leadership of our Vice President for Africa, Hadiza Bala Usman, your Managing Director, for taking this initiative and for hosting such a wonderful event. Thank you, Hadiza. You've set a standard which will be difficult to achieve by your colleagues in the board of IAPH, because we try to encourage the other regions to do the same. But what we had here was a mix of superb content, very lively discussions, political endorsement at the highest level by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and not to forget great entertainment that we had last night. So this conference ticks all the boxes. It has all the right ingredients of a successful event. Let me just summarize a few takeaways that I will take with me to the organization from this event. I think the potential of the African port system has been underlined in the various presentations that we heard yesterday, the day before yesterday, and also this morning during the interactive session we had with the African IAPH members. We know what the challenges are: governance, infrastructure investments, trade facilitation, modal policies like railways, inland waterways, short sea shipping, and of course the particular situation of the landlocked countries and the transit flows. From the resolutions that Michael introduced so eloquently, and I noted them all, 5 of them: maritime security, environmental sustainability, facilitation, partnerships with communities, regions, and international cooperation and capacity building. I think we have the basis for a Pan-African ports agenda, and that was really our conclusion from the internal session, or not the internal session, the regional meeting we had this morning, that there is a basis there to shape that agenda. And I think what the work that now lies ahead, and there is where IAPH can facilitate, is in sitting together, getting that input, digesting that input, and try to bring an operational agenda together where we can work together with international partners, international institutions in making that happen. And that is where we have a World Port Sustainability Program that can help and facilitate. And I would really recommend that we see this Pan-African Ports Agenda as a dedicated project within the World Port Sustainability Program, so that we can really use the network that is behind that program with the support of IAPH. So I think that is our immediate work ahead, and I look again at our Vice President and also at the regional port associations here in Africa, PAMOCA, PAMESA, to sit down together and try to work out this operational agenda. So in conclusion, again, a few words of thanks to everybody who made this possible: Nigerian Ports Authority, our Vice President, the Nigerian government, PAMOCA, all the sponsors that made it possible, our international partners, of course, particularly IMO and UNCTAD for being with us here, and of course also thank you to all the delegates here. I want to mention someone in particular, and that is a lady who has been working very hard behind the scenes, and she's just walking in the room as we speak. That is Ugo Madubuike. Ugo, thank you very much. It was great working with you, very efficient, and a very good team that made all this possible. So in terms of continuation, our next appointment, well, we love to see you in China, in Guangzhou, for the World Ports Conference, which is from the 6th to the 10th of May, so you could already note the dates. And I hope we will have a next African IAPH conference next year. Where and when, that's something to discuss, but I think there is certainly material enough and work enough to continue this excellent initiative. So once again, thank you very much for making it possible, and have a good continuation of your stay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Managing Director IAPH, Dr. Patrick Verhoeven. Let's give him one more round of applause. From all over Africa, where there is a port, you've all gathered since Monday, as a matter of fact, some of you since Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to deliberate, to negotiate, to network, and to brainstorm. And I'm sure if I have to pass the microphone to each and every one of you, your distinguished selves, you would have one or two things to say by way of words of appreciation to the Nigerian Ports Authority, the IAPH Africa region, and indeed to the organizers. But we know we will not have enough time for that, and for that reason, I will call on this gentleman to come on your behalf and express your appreciation to the organizers and our host. So I'm going all the way now to the port of Sierra Leone, and I ask you to welcome with me Kenneth Olu Jones, as he takes a vote of thanks on behalf of all of your distinguished selves, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate for singling me out, just a small country, Sierra Leone, to give the vote of thanks for this ceremony. On behalf of the distinguished guest, invited guests, we express our sincere gratitude, thanks, and appreciation for this August meeting. It has been educative, enlightening, and most of all, we're able to share ideas, and the issue of collaboration crops in. Special thanks to the Nigerian government, the Nigerian Ports Authority, and all those who in diverse ways make this meeting a success. I will not do justice if I do not mention certain names. The MD of NPA, Hadiza Bola Usman, also Vice President of IAPH, and Dr. Patrick Van Hooven, Managing Director for IAPH. And thanks for the navigation. I'm a navigator. And also, I would also like to express my thanks for all those who had made this meeting a success, especially the sponsors who had contributed their financial resources to make us enjoy this meeting. I thank you all.
Thank you for thanking all those that you thanked. Mr. Kenneth Olu Jones, we thank you for thanking them as well. Thank you very much. Continuing now, we'll listen to an address from our Vice President, IAPH. Indeed, I must say this, for some of us that may not know, she is the very first woman to so become CEO of the Nigerian Ports Authority in over 100 years of existence, and I think that deserves a round of applause. Let me also say this. We monitor situations in our country, in the media a lot because of our line of business. When she was appointed, a lot of people questioned, who is she? Why will she be appointed? Can she deliver? All I can ask you, IAPH African Regional members, is as your Africa Vice President, is she delivering her mandates? She is delivering. Please welcome Hadiza Bola Usman, who is also delivering as the Managing Director of the Nigerian Ports Authority. Remarkable outing it has been. The MD IPH has said it all. I welcome you.
Thank you very much. The Chairman, Governing Board of Nigerian Ports Authority, and board members here present, the Managing Director, International Association of Ports and Harbors, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure for Nigerian government and Nigerian Ports Authority to have hosted the first ever regional conference of IAPH. The journey for being Vice President IAPH for me started at Bali when I attended the last World Port Conference. It was an interesting decision to even contest for being Vice President Africa. And I would like to mention that Michael Loguji, he was one of the initiators of my contesting VP Africa for the African region. So thank you very much for putting that out there and making me feel it's something that I can do. The campaign, we went through an interesting campaign for my emergence as VP, and one of the things that was contained in the manifesto that I was campaigning on was the fact that we need to have a Pan-African agenda, we need to convey a conference for the region, we need as a region to sit and decide what it is that we want for IAPH to do for us. And in so doing, one of the things was to convey this conference. So it was an interesting decision, picking the topic and all of such things that were done with the support of Patrick. Patrick has been very supportive in this journey of hosting this conference. So I would like to thank him very much for being able to provide us the avenue, the intellectual content, and the support that we need from the International Association. For the first time, Africa is setting the pace across all regions. No region in IAPH has done a conference except us. So beyond it being the first in Africa, it's also the first for the whole IAPH. So Africa is rising, and I think Africa has risen and will continue to rise as we improve on our Pan-African port operations. I would like to thank every one of you delegates for coming to Nigeria, for taking the risk. In certain instances, Nigeria is being said to be a place of high security risk. So I thank you for coming. I thank you for enjoying the hospitality of Nigeria. I thank you for trusting in us to come to our country to see that it's not what it's meant to be. And I would like to appreciate Mr. President. He's not here. None of his representatives are here. But I need to appreciate him for giving us the necessary support to enable us to do what we have done. Some of the radical policy decisions that the Nigerian Post has been able to achieve is by the support of the President to the Minister of Transportation. So I have to thank them beyond even the conference. The activities and the reforms that we've done are achievable only because the President has given his political support and political will to enable us to do what we do. The Minister has been a key instrumental support. He's provided us every support we need. He granted us approval to sign the MOU with Guangzhou within a few hours of informing him. So I have to appreciate the Federal Ministry of Transportation for doing that. Director of Legal is there. Ijoma, thank you for facilitating it. I appreciate what you've done to enable us get the MOU signed. Beyond that, I would like for the team that worked on this, Ugo, IK, Shei, please come up here. There's an organizing team. I would like you to come up to the stage. Please come. Ugo Madubike, she's here. She will join. And I want each and every member of the organizing committee to come here. Ugo should please join me. Shei, please come up. IK, Arid, Victoria, Anthony, Kayode, Halima, Joel, Francis, please come up here. They're the team behind all of this. I want you all to see so we can give a round of applause to the administrative excellence we've seen. Nigerian Ports, led by this team, has been able to organize an international conference of this magnitude. So I would like to put a faces to the people that worked assiduously day in, day out to ensure that this conference is a success. I'm a bit of a micromanager, so I'm always on their heads, changing things every minute, correcting things. So I apologize for my interference in a lot of things that you do, but that's my nature. So please, yes, I'll join them for the picture. I would like Patrick to join us for a picture. But importantly, you know, it's a teamwork. Everything we do in MP is a team, and I am a believer of teamwork and appreciating everybody's contribution. So these are the people that were behind everything you've seen here. So thank you very much, team. Put a round of applause to them. So on a closing note, everybody, I wish you a fruitful end of our deliberations. Have a good evening, have a good dinner and movie session, and please enjoy your tour of Abuja. We may not have enough available in terms of sightseeing because this is the seat of government. Typically, seat of governments do not have much cultural showcasing. This is because it's an artificial city that was built specifically to host the government. So you will see a bit. It's not all of Nigerian culture. I'm sure you were able to see a lot of our culture last night. So thank you for coming and wishing you safe journey back to your respective destinations. Thank you all. Patrick, please come forward for a picture.
Keep the applause coming for our managing director, and indeed for this wonderful organizing committee members who have delivered the first of its kind in the history of IAPH. You deserve all the accolades in Charles Okocha's voice. Chee! Thank you. Thank you very much. Well done. So, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, one more speech, and we will be done. That will take us, of course, to lunch, but one more speech. I would allow them to finish with their paparazzis before I cue the next speaker. Congratulations. It was a great outing. No, I would want you somewhere there, sir. Are you fine here? Okay, that's fine. Paparazzi, are you done? Bye-bye with your camera. Thank you, thank you. Give them an applause, ladies and gentlemen, as they exit the podium. Celebrate them. Congratulations. Well done. Very well put together. Oh, please, by all means.
I told you it was the last time, but I have a last word, and that is to thank our wonderful Master of Ceremony, Richmond. I think you will deserve that prize. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Very kind of you, Dr. Verhoeven. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. As I said, one last speech, and we are done with the closing ceremony. And this time, one thing I can also say is that our managing director has been this successful because of the collaboration. You heard her talk about it. It's a team effort, collaboration, and support from the board of the Nigerian Ports Authority. So our last word for the speeches is coming from our board of the NPA. Please welcome our chairman of the board, Engineer Olajide Adesoye, as he addresses us as a final speech. A round of applause, please, fitting of a cooperative, supportive board of directors.
Thank you very much. The Managing Director, IAPH, representative of IMO Secretary General, Vice President, African Region, IAPH, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, everything that has a beginning definitely must have an end, correct? So that brings us to the end of this whole wonderful program. But let me just correct one impression. I'm not an engineer. I'm an accountant. I'll start by expressing my gratitude for the opportunity to address the official closing ceremony of this historic conference. I am confident that the past 3 days have produced results that will ultimately enable governments on the continent formulate policies capable of seeing us maximize the potentials of our maritime sector. I want to thank you all for lending your expertise to the service of humanity by totally dedicating your energies to the improvement of the maritime industry in Africa during this conference. I've always been convinced that the only way to achieve sustainable development of any society is to have all members of that society act selflessly and in good faith towards the greater good. This is what the goodwill and robust cross-fertilization of ideas that permeated the conference indicate, and I congratulate you all for being part of history. The maritime industry, much more than any other industry, symbolizes the interconnectedness and interdependence of humanity, and I am hopeful that African leaders will build on the progress that has been made from the conference for greater efficiency of our ports and economics ultimately. Let me seize this opportunity to specially commend the Managing Director of the International Association of Ports and Harbors, Dr. Patrick Verhoeven, and the Vice President for IAPH African Region, our own Adisa Bala Yusman, for the vision to conceive and the tenacity to birth this noble idea. I want to assure you of the support of the federal government of Nigeria for the realization of all the dreams that this conference may have for the improvement of the port system in Africa. I'm also hopeful that this will only be the beginning of such attempts to converge for the crystallization of ideas for the even development of our continent. On that note, it is a unique privilege for me to declare the first IAPH African Region 2018 conference closed. I thank you very much for your time and wish you safe return to your destinations. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, my chairman, the accountant. One thing I can say for sure, so I know as an accountant, you would have represented or did accounting auditing for an engineering firm. By association, you would have been an engineer at that time. So forgive our mistake. Maybe we saw a vision of you doing auditing for an engineering firm, and we called you an engineer. Well, thank you very much. One more time, please, for Mr. Adesoye. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the only thing they say that is constant in life is change. And that change means that our lunch would serve at 2:30, but your tour you will take the moment I close this ceremony. You will go on the buses, go on the tour of the city, come back from the tour at 2 o'clock, have your lunch, take a little bit of rest, and come back for the cocktail and Lara and the Beats movie. Dinner and cocktail, of course. But this will be my own parting shot, okay? A lot of things has been said all through this conference. All I want to say is embrace ICT, eliminate corruption, ensure transparency, empower the women, and most importantly, play your part in building the bridges that will connect Africa's seaports and hinterlands and make Africa a smaller part of the global village and make the ease of doing business across our continent something that the world will stand in awe of in the next decade. Richmond Osuji is my name. Lucelle Limited, led by the indefatigable Dr. Yemi Amuson, has also worked with MPA as a consultant on this project. We had Nigeria's finest sound engineer, Eddie Lawani, on the console for sounds. It's been our pleasure serving you. Hopefully, until Guangzhou, maybe somewhere around the world, who knows? Or in Kenya, perhaps, if I would come. Richmond Osuji is my name. I say Abianto, Arrivederci, Kodi, Dalu, Segube, Se Anjima. Bye-bye. Okay, Navy Band, 1 second, please. Navy Band, 1 second, please. All the delegates, please, we want you on the podium for a group photograph with the MD IAPH, Chairman MPA Board, and the MD MPA. All international delegates, please. All international delegates. All international delegates. Delegates of African member nations. We want you on the podium now for a quick group photograph. Please, all delegates, international delegates, Africa and other parts of the world that came, we want you on the podium for a quick group photograph. Paparazzi, if it's going to be too much, let's split it in two. Let me know. Okay. Please do not take the receivers. Please do not take the receivers. They cannot work without the motherboard. Do not take the receivers, please.
the interpretation receivers. Please do not take them. Thank you. Thank you. Paparazzi, if we need to break it, let me know. Dave. Are you fine? Are you fine? Yeah, okay. But what if some line up here? No. Okay. Sorry, you were here. Our sound engineer has been Kelvin. Our production director is Edi Lawani. Thank you. Kelvin, our sound engineer. Our production director is the famous Edi Lawani. Kumi Ario, your attention is needed here. Kumi Ario, we need you by the podium. Yvonne, thank you. Mrs. Amuson, we need you here, ma'am. Yvonne, we need you here, ma'am. Kumi, Chairman, we need you here. Okay, Kumi is coming. So once again, we're doing the tour now. The tour buses will be ready, parked outside there. After the tour buses, we'll come back here for lunch. After the tour, rather, of the city, we'll come back here for lunch. The tour buses are outside.